So, thank you everybody for coming here. We designed this session because if you see how the landscape of cybersecurity in this country has shaped up, under the law there is a segment called Critical Information Infrastructure, or CII as we popularly call it. Now CII is those sectors, an attack on which can have catastrophic consequences for the country, national security, economic security, so on and so forth. So we wanted to have a session where the nodal agency as mandated by law, which is called the National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center, they wanted to have a discussion on how they look at CII. We also have some key people and a very informed audience. The panelists I'll introduce, but just to get you an idea, people who are from the Null community, people who have worked with us for the last 10, 12 years, because a key mandate given was that while we are looking at how to approach at critical information infrastructure, what does the community feel? And as people who have been given the massive task of protecting these sectors, they want to hear from the community. So without further ado, I would like to invite the Director General of National Critical Information Infrastructure, Mr. Navin Singh. Very quickly, if you look at his CV, I always knew it's a very interesting CV, but it's far more interesting than what I had thought. Computer engineer from IIT, also got the Academic Excellence Topper Award. Then he's an NTS scholar. Then he's done a master's in anti-corruption. And when I asked him, will we be able to put together this? He said, hum police wale, bahut jaldi we'll get people. So that also happened. So thanks to him, we've got a very interesting group of people. I'll request the CISO of ICICI, Ms. Madhavi Purandare. She is somebody who's handled technology for many years, 500 plus applications that she has taken care of. Again, has to manage a lot of things. Then we have Mr. Mathan he is here not really as much in the role as his current role, which is CISO Vodafone, but also the tremendous work he did at NPCI because he was CISO NPCI earlier. So again, both hats, critical information infrastructure. Then we have Shashadri, the enfant terrible of our group, who will hopefully make it much more interesting and keep the character of this as much a hackers conference, etc. Just a few additional people I have seated in the crowd. One is Shomiron, again an old hand from our Nullcon days, because we want people who have worked in this community to also give a feedback, which everybody is very keen on. And then we have Lalit, who's done global threat intelligence and a lot of work looking at, what kind of attacks come in, especially on critical information infrastructure. So first, we'll have a little bit of an opening session because NCIPC is usually an organization that was, if you will pardon me saying, slightly underground, and usually everybody gets to hear of certain, because certain sends out all the notices that you've been breached, so they get to be heard a lot more. Also, full disclosure, I've worked with NCIPC, so I have a certain bias and loyalty towards the organization, and thankfully now we have a person who's managed to increase the scope of work that NCIPC has done in the last 2 years, and he'll be here hopefully for a longer period, and we do a lot more. So with that, I'll request the DG NCIPC for a few opening remarks, and if you could also bring in what exactly is CII and where does NCIP's role come in.
Good evening, everyone. I think he has already told you about the critical information infrastructure. This is something which is defined in the Section 70 of the IT Act. Broadly speaking, any computer resource, the incapacitation or destruction of which can have a debilitating impact on national security, national economy, public health and public safety. So then it is basically a CII as per the IT Act, and any unauthorized access, even an attempt to do it, is punishable under the law of even 10 years of imprisonment. So that kind of a legal enablement is there for the CIIs to be able to prevent a lot of things. That kind of a deterrence is there in the law. And NCIPC is also a creation of the IT Act Section 70A, where we are the national nodal body for the protection of the critical information infrastructure of the country. Our job is basically twofold. The first is the identification of the critical information infrastructure, and then do everything possible to strengthen the security of the CIIs. These are broadly our two mandates. As far as the first one is concerned, we have identified 7 critical sectors. The first one is the banking, financial services and insurance. Then we have the power and energy, we have the telecom, we have the health, transport, strategic and public enterprises, and the government. So within these sectors, whichever entities satisfy those criteria, they are declared as the critical information infrastructure. As of now, we have assessed the CIIs of almost 100 organizations. So the organizations whose information infrastructure protection is most critical for the country, so those organizations, we have got them notified, declared as a CII, and many more are in the pipeline. So our job is to see that these are secure, and that is where we look forward to this community to help us in delivering our mandate. I think that would be the opening remark.
Add a little more question to that when you say that you have notified them as protected, can you elaborate a little more on what do you mean by that?
See, that means the concerned ministry says that it is a protected system under Section 70 of the IT Act, and once it is notified, then there are only certain authorized persons who can have access to that system. So any unauthorized access, it will be punishable. So legally there is a deterrent to any kind of attacks by them. You can of course say that the outside actors, how are they worried about it? In any case, you will not be able to catch them. But I think once the proper investigation goes on, and at least to mitigate the insider threats and all, this is a big legal enablement if one is notified as such. And once it is notified, then those organizations, they have certain responsibilities in terms of protecting their information, in terms of sharing the certain information with us, and we try to work with them to ensure that they have those minimum baseline security, and we work towards how we can improve them and take it to a level where they cannot be taken down or they cannot be in any way interrupted by any of the threat actors.
I'll just, in the first round, one last question to you is, what kind of a threat landscape do you see in the position that you're sitting? What kind of attacks are you seeing these days? What is the dominant trend?
See, as of now, I would say that what we are seeing is that not only the number of attacks have increased, we see that the complexity and the sophistication of the attacks have gone up. For us, the most worrying of the attacks are those where the advanced persistent threat actors or some of the state-sponsored actors, where they have tried to have persistence in the critical information infrastructure, and they just want persistence after a thorough reconnaissance of the CIIs, so that they are able to do what they want at a particular time. So those kind of attacks also we have been seeing. Apart from that, we have seen a lot of massive data breaches, not just in India but across the world. Recently, I was talking to my Australian counterparts. They have some, I think, a couple of major data breaches. One in their health insurance company, and one was a loan giving company, where they lost the PIA data of more than 1/4 of their citizens. So those kind of data breaches is what is happening in these critical information infrastructure. Apart from that, the other threat which we are seeing is the ransomware attacks, the most disruptive attacks in these days, which is a cause of concern. We have seen some big and very premier entities being attacked by ransomware, where it is AIMS, where it is the All India Limited, the JNPT ports. You would have heard about the attacks on the pharmaceutical companies of India, whether it is Sun Pharma or Granules India. then we have seen a lot of supply chain attacks, which again remains a cause of concern, attack through the managed service providers. And what is more worrying is that a lot of these tools and these services are now available in the underground forum, and now you have ransomware as a service. So all those things makes even attribution and other things quite difficult and challenging. So the threat landscape is definitely more challenging, and the attack surface has also increased with more and more digitization and the COVID also accelerating it. So not only the attack surface has gone up, but even the kind of attacks which we are seeing, that complexity has gone up, and with quantum computing and AI coming in, we see the attack surface becoming more and more complex.
I'll try to stop you there, because then I won't be able to have more conversations around that. I've slotted them for later.
Please.
If I can request, Madhavi, you've heard the DG in CII. As somebody who is in one of the most critical, BFSI are one of our most critical sectors. What are your expectations from an organization like NCIPC? And if you could speak in an uncensored manner, even though he's here.
Yes,
I mean, here's your chance to take pot shots at him.
We really want to hear what you expect from us, because that will make us do what we should. So please feel free to say whatever.
So even though he's a police officer, we've all taken one day, few hours immunity from him. So please feel free to speak today. Always.
So first and foremost, thank you for having me here. This is my first Nullcon, and I must say that I missed a lot of things all these years. It has been such an electrifying atmosphere here, and some of the interesting conversations. I have been here just for few hours, but the kind of conversations that are happening, extremely interesting. Coming to CII, we have had two very, very detailed discussions so far with the NCIPC team. I think it has been an interest. Both the conversation have been very, very interesting. What they bring to the table is that macro perspective, because as he explained, it is across the sectors. And I feel that there are a lot of learnings to be done across the sectors, which is coming in. And I think that should continue to come in. How do you share the threat intel? How do you have common standards? How do you unite and develop some standards for some of the new technologies like cloud? I'm sure every organization is adopting cloud, and each of them must be having their own set of challenges on security. So these are areas where definitely an organization like NCIPC can help to guide, define standards and processes, which will actually make us better secure.
So you're saying that because of the new kind of emerging technologies modernization requires you move into new technologies, and cloud definitely, even Government of India since 2013 has been saying move into cloud. Yeah. We've spoken to a number of CISOs in fintechs, banks, that cloud not only helps you take care of a lot of compliance issues from a regulated entity perspective, but also gives you high quality of threat intelligence, etc. So, but given that perspective, from a agency like them, a nodal agency, what are the expectations you have from them? That how do you think they can empower you further?
Okay, so one is tell me in real time if something is happening somewhere else.
Right.
I know it before. Let me know it before it hits me. It has hit somewhere else probably, or it is about to hit somewhere else. How do I get it in real time, and I prepare myself better? Other is what can I do on the protection side in terms of standards. See, they are sitting, as we say, how we are sitting. The person who is sitting at the top is able to see much better than the person who is sitting down. And I think because they are working across the sectors, they are sitting there where they are able to see across sectors what is happening. And certainly that information will help to define certain standards. And I think security is one area where there is no competition. It is all collaboration.
Right.
So in that collaboration, definitely working across the sector for defining principles, defining standards, work with some of the vendors also. Now, if you see on cloud, IaaS is a different ballgame altogether, but if you see on PaaS, SaaS, I'm sure all of us have some worries. People who have actually tried to go on cloud, on a SaaS, can you take your key, on a plain SaaS environment, can you bring your own key, how you can secure the data, how is the network secure, are some of the things that I'm sure every organization is battling. Some of those standards at a national level would certainly help.
And that's where NCIPC can really
can help.
I'll just...
Loud now. I can be heard without mic, so I thought I would have.
You mean you were there when UPI, NPCI was doing a lot of new things, bringing them, etc. And you probably did not find the way NCIPC is today. So how do you see this change? And even now that you're handling a telecom, which is also in the critical information infrastructure, what would be your expectations given the experience and the knowledge that you have?
So, one of the things that the world that we live in is completely connected. The verticalization has become dependent verticalization now. So, while I am a telco, there is a complete banging of all of them depending on us. And vice versa, we too, depending on for various payment collection infra, banking, you take manufacturing, dependent on network connected infrastructure, to connect back to supply distributors, etc., payment settlements, etc. So the world that we live in is a completely connected world. And in this digitized situation that we are in, what's happening to any smaller party which may not come in our top of our mind, possibly could have an impact on us. We may not even understand, is he part of one of my supplier ecosystem? So an average company like us would possibly have 40,000 plus suppliers. And I'm sure for the likes of NSE or for ICICI or for anybody like it will be in at least close to multiples of lakhs that I can relate back. Now,
40,000 suppliers.
Absolutely. And I'm not giving a smaller number.
DG was talking about a massive attack surface, like just as a
absolutely.
company.
So I just quantified that with some miraculous numbers that will open up to the real audience sitting over here. That's the reality that we live in, right? So that's the level of interdependency that we have in this connected ecosystem. And there are, I'm sure each of you as security researchers, you would have come across, say, a Tesco breach happening through a HVAC component equivalent, etc. Historic breach that has happened. So those were breaches which brought us to the notice that the supplier awareness that a corporate would have is very, very important to get to know what could possibly come their way. Now, would I have a ability to keep a track of what's happening in my so large supplier database? The answer is no. Where would I find?
So where can an organization like NCIPC come in?
Absolutely. So today, in my view, it is only a beginning step that we have taken. We have gone to the extent of looking at critical infrastructure. My personal lookout from NCIPC also would be to expand this, because you are looking at critical infra, but the associated parties of the critical infra also plays a wider role in terms of what could happen possibly to us. So in that element, my personal expectation is that we look forward to see, we heard DG telling that it is 100, it's expanding to beyond the 100, sooner to come, etc. So in that, we should try and see who could possibly be, or which all other verticals should ideally be in our methods to get us that high levels of visibility. See, we are India as a country, we are a shop of export. We export brain, we export software, we export not hardware as adequately, but these are core infrastructure that we export. So when we export, and we also put to use variety of those in our own infrastructure use. Each of us, whether it is bank, whether it is NPCI or now telecom, we have umpteen number of software developers that are put to use. Now the quality of development that happens, are there corporates equipped enough to control security?
So you would want NCIPC to set certain standards?
Into the ambit of at least, if not other verticals. We heard few of the vertical. The IT vertical, the development vertical is not yet there. Right. I would keenly look up to see NCIPC soon getting that.
I'll request if you could pass it on to Shashadri.
Shashadri, sure.
And you've heard, like, for example, NSE, especially the stock exchanges today, are so critical to economic security and can have catastrophic effects. I'll ask you a slightly provocative question. Do you think NCIPC is good enough to handle, or have they matured, or do you think they still have some way to go? Honest feedback.
Thanks for taking that question to each other.
Right?
Okay. Immunity, sir.
Immunity.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you for having me here first. NSE is, if I may say so, was one of the first private sector entities to get notified as critical infrastructure for the place that we are in and for the size that we operate in. If you ask me, does NCIPC, we were notified in 2018, so it's almost 5 years now. What is NCIPC done so far? They have done quite a lot, and I'm not being politically correct here. I can articulate it in 3 ways on the ground. One is, as NSE, we collect a lot of threat intel. We get threat intel from private sector, public sector, free sources. We have partners here who provide us threat intel. And we also measure at NSE which has been the most effective threat intel in terms of hits that we see in our infrastructure. And second, which is most relevant in terms of time. Who gives me the quickest intel from whatever sources that come in. In both the counts, I think NCIPC ranks better than many very good, expensive private players. I think they have access to a lot of intel that is not available to many people. And they share that with the critical infrastructure entities. So the intel that we get on a daily basis from the speed that it comes to us and the context it comes to us is very, very relevant, which nobody else has been.
And I think you were also mentioning that their threat feed is much sharper than
so contextually it is very, very relevant. If I take a feed, for example, of 100 IOCs, I could have Mandiant and others, probably 1 or 2 of those IOCs actually getting hit in the environment. But if I compare that with NCIPC, it will be in 25-30 range. So almost 25-30% of the IOCs that they share actually hit our environment, which when we are proactively blocking it, makes a lot of sense. That is the first huge contribution that we are getting from NCIPC. Second is, incidentally, we have to share our logs with NCIPC. It's a mandate. So in addition to our own SOC, we have an additional pair of eyes looking into our egress and ingress traffic. That gives us much more confidence that even if we miss, there's somebody else looking at it at a different level. Third, and very important and very relevant is, and maybe it was not a direct intention, I don't know, but the way I look at it is supply risk. I'll tell you a classic example. We might protect our infrastructure from all the known attack vectors within NSE. But the various suppliers that we have no control on, though there are governance standards, at an operational level, we don't have much control. For example, not to take Vodafone, but telecom operators. We have to take multiple links from Airtel and Reliance and Tata and all that. While we may protect our perimeter with a firewall, IPS, DDoS and all that, the router that sits at the edges of the telecom service provider. And if you ever see the way that is managed, you'll be aghast. What NCIPC has got, it has got its eyes on all the telecom links and also the traffic that flows through that. They're able to tell me if something is going wrong at the telecom CPE end, which no other service provider or a service in the country is able to provide us. So in these 3 very tangible measures, it's been extremely beneficial for us. What I've not yet seen is if somebody hacks into NSE and if you can attribute it to an hacker, then they take criminal action, which so far has not happened, which is a good thing so far.
I'll request the DG to... You've heard some honest or near honest feedback, but now I'll turn the table a little bit. Can you give them some honest feedback on the gaps you're seeing in the CII? What are your observations? He's already got immunity. He's from the police service.
See, we have around 100 CIIs as of now, and I think the more I increase the number of CIIs, the more beneficial it is for us. In fact, some of these CISOs which you are seeing sitting with us, their level of professional competence personally and the maturity of their organizations is what we see is at a much higher level. But we have a lot of organizations which are not at that level of maturity. Different organizations have different kinds of gaps, and the benefit which NCIPC has because of the statutory power is that we look at what good is happening where, and then there is definitely a lot of goods which can be transferred across sectors and within different organizations within these sectors. So, but generally speaking, if you ask me the gaps, but it is not about only just I see a lot of gaps in the quality of cybersecurity professionals which should be there. That's across the sectors and across the entities. There is a mandate to get audits done by certain empaneled auditors, but we have only 150 certain empaneled companies. So recently there was a problem in the cooperative banks. Now we do not have enough number of auditors to do the audits. The quality of VAPT and cybersecurity audits, those are some things which needs to get up. The quality of cybersecurity drills which can be done, the red team testing and things like that. More testing on the ground, because I have a feeling that making standards and saying that we comply with the standards is something which is much more easier, but whether they are actually compliant on ground, that kind of a testing is somewhere where I think we need to do a lot of work. And those organizations who are giving a lot of weightage to actual testing of things on the ground, even if they may not be compliant on paper, I think they are the ones who fare better in cyber security when it comes to the real attackers and things like that. So I think those are the areas where we need to work a lot.
I'm not trying to get
among
you
the
into
critical sector entities in general.
I'm not trying to get you into trouble, but since you mentioned auditors and lack of auditors, and it is certain which empanels them, do you think certain is doing a good enough job empaneling them, or are they empaneling them fast enough? Because there's a whole lot of groups of people here who try to get empaneled and they don't. And again, please remember the immunity you've given us for today.
See, I think what I have heard a lot of people, the certain has tried its level best to do whatever kind of the empanelment which they can do. In fact, a lot of auditors have told me that the quality of exam etc. is quite good, but I think it is also about how do you scope your audit and how does the principal take work out of the auditors, and what we are now trying to do is we are trying to work with CERT, and we have also now developed our own special auditors, where if we find that the quality of audit is not good or auditor has not pointed out to something which comes out later, then we can send our auditors and get that audit done, and we give a feedback to certain where certain is now saying that we'll act against those. So we want to make it better. See, it's a beginning. So I think rather than because I'll tell you a case where we caught hold of an auditor who had not pointed out to certain basics, and he said that for years it had been like this, because that is the kind of audit we were expected in. So we are now trying to define the scope of the audit so that we don't get into this L1 business, and we do more of a quality based QCBS kind of a system for actually finding out the auditors with a proper scope, and you properly say how the audit report is to be written, what kind of a sampling is to be done. So those kinds of checks etc. we are trying to introduce to get more work out of the certain empaneled auditors. And at the national level we are thinking of ways at the NSCS level and everywhere, how do we increase this number of auditors. So we are working together, and I am sure the number of such auditors would increase. But this is again an area where we would like more auditors. In fact, if you see a lot of these, we want more auditors from the Indian background also to come who can audit the international system. So that is where
if auditors in this audience who have ambitions to be auditors for you, how do you suggest they get in touch with you?
No, they can get empaneled with certain, and then they need to compete. As of now, we don't want duplicity where, but if there were too many auditors, probably then we can choose from them who can do the CII audit. But that stage is still far
And just
to come.
one quick, very short answer. You're also in the process of upgrading your guidelines that you have built over a period of time, and you've got a lot of focus only on CII. Can those guidelines be added to the audit process for your CII entities?
See, we are trying to, our guidelines we know are a little bit old, but we were waiting for more and more entities to be declared, and we are as of now working with the individual entities more rather than focusing on those broad standards. Of course, as ma'am said, we are aware that there are certain areas where we do need to come out with standards, especially the new and the emerging technologies, where we want to work faster and come out with those at least minimum baseline standard. But as of now, we are more into what the individual companies need to know. We are looking even at that level, because we have this system of ISSC meetings where the CEO of the company, the CISO and the NCIPC people are there, and we try to see that whatever the CISO wants, that is actually done, and it gets the due attention of the people. But as far as the guidelines are concerned, we are working on it, and it's at a very advanced stage, and we want to cover the majority of the field. You should expect the guidelines very soon.
Shashadri, before I go to two of my friends in the audience, if you could, I think you wanted to come in quickly on this part.
First thing is regarding the audit part. What do you expect from the auditor, actually speaking? Do you expect him to say that if the organization is competent enough to manage attacks, cyber attacks? I don't think they can do that. What is an auditor basically? He's doing a compliance check against a set standard. And a compliance check is point-in-time activity. It is not persistent, it is not there all the time, continuous monitoring. So if you expect an auditor to give you a cheat which says that you're qualified to manage cyber attacks, I think we are asking for too much. At best, the auditor can give is reasonable assurance as per auditing standards. How much ever you make them competent or empaneled and all that, there is a problem. If I may ask, can I ask for a show of hands?
Yeah, please.
How many of you are red teamers? Show of hands. Okay, great. Since we have immunity, how many of you are part of Lockbit, Fancy Bear, Lazarus? You can, your immunity.
Itna bhi immunity nahi. I don't think you have that kind of immunity.
No, you don't have to. So tell me, critical infrastructure, what does it take for a group or an individual to actually break into a critical infrastructure setup? Okay. Oh, no, that's good to hear. This, an auditor will not tell. He will not be able to assess this. And I'll tell you. Fair enough.
OT is a lot easier than IT.
OT is a lot more easier, yes. But I'm not from OT. I'm still on TCP/IP and all that, so I can talk about that. The way we see attacks in hitting NSE, I will take 2 minutes here. A little deviation.
1 minute 30 seconds.
1 minute 30 seconds. We see what we are most worried from a defending side is an attacker who's got these 5 attributes, very simple ones. He's got access to tools. Basically, you've got Google, Metasploit, Flipper Zero at best, cost $200, right? He has the motivation, which is difficult to get because what do you do after that? Unless you're making a statement. There's not much of a financial incentive to break into critical infrastructure. It's mostly to do geopolitical dynamics. Motivation second. Third is resources, which not everybody has. You need to have deep pockets backed by certain countries, I guess, to break into critical infrastructure. Third is persistence. Again, very difficult for a hacker to have persistence. Not in the environment, even before coming to the environment. Fifth is patience, which is extremely difficult. I know red teamers run out of patience very fast. And without these 5, you will not get into critical infrastructure. A properly managed critical infrastructure. That is again 20,000 above those. I'm talking of on ground. You can have a very good strategy. Implementation can be really screwed. Auditor will not catch you that, will not catch that, and then we have a problem. if you take all the known attacks at critical infrastructure, let's actually again, if I can call out, how many of you can name cyber attacks, successful breaches into critical infrastructure that have been called sophisticated? You mind my word, sophisticated. 3, 4. I can't count more than 5. Please, can you? Successful breaches. No, most of them are publicized. If you have the right access, most of them are successful. You are 1 minute 30 seconds up.
Yeah, actually 1 minute.
Oh, very good. Somebody. Yeah, please.
So we also heard about emerging technology being discussed, and the threat landscape has changed significantly. Generative AI. Ma'am mentioned about moving into cloud. Now that from a business perspective makes sense to you. What kind of challenges do you have? So I have a couple of friends. I'll go to you, Lalit. You've been working a lot on threat intelligence. You've looked at what cloud is doing, etc. Anything that you want to add to this? And you heard what DG NCIPC also mentioned.
I'm going to pick up from the conversation itself. Sir mentioned that advanced persistent threat. That's what we are. Is it coming okay? Yeah. That's what we are most worried about. And ma'am mentioned that, hey, are there any standards where the different tools are there? For example, any organization will have around any organization that have around 40 to 50 security tools. And now the signals coming from them are all in different formats. When somebody actually sit and analyze them and start reading them, then they're very different. And how do you correlate all of them? Our standard answers have been, oh, we are going to build a SOC, we are going to apply a SIM, but we have all seen that we can't get alerts fast enough across all of these. Organization across now trying to collaborate and build standards. Splunk did a common format, and then OCSF is there, which is a open format where all the security vendors, there are now 60 plus security vendors which are collaborating. So I think where we are heading towards is it's a collaborative game. We are not going to win this battle if we are not going to collaborate. So from a critical infrastructure standpoint, if we can start identifying these patterns and start investing more from a policy perspective as well, that if we can bring all this information together and we can detect any kind of anomalies much faster. So that is something I want to indicate towards, but of course there's a lot could be said about threat intel. We are seeing a spectrum where largely what we see, any kind of attacks is happening because of very basic misconfiguration at times as well, which could be averted by presence of tools as well, but more than the tools, by building the right guardrails at the place. Now, who detects that? Is it an auditor detects it, or the people who are implementing, they detects it? I think that gap could be bridged now easily with auditors as well, by defining those policies in the audit for the right guardrails. For example, the simplest of the guardrail is data residency. That's the simplest of the guardrail, but apart from this, who can access what kind of tools, and is there a practice in organization where we are looking continuously across who get what access? Are there these practices? We look for IR, but are we looking for permission management, those kind of practices? So I think there's a lot to be done, but we can take audit to a little next level if we move away from just a checklist, but rather than making it a more continuous process. Organizations are already sending logs, but can organization also send their current security posture across certain parameters? That probably could help.
You also heard Shashadri talk about that audits are essentially point in time. So for an organization like NCIPC, which has to protect the critical information infrastructure, what do? Audits are important, but the criticism that it's a point in time activity, that's also.
So here is the thing. every organization today is moving towards continuous compliance. So every organization wants that, and they want to detect misconfiguration in real time. There are tools available which are providing continuous compliance. The audit process has to evolve a bit where the future of audit, if I have to say this, is an API. Where rather than I'm scheduling time and everyone preparing for the audit and creating everything correctly and setting up things correctly, I continuously get signal. And it's an API, I can pull up the data at any point of time and I can look at that data. So I think we need to evolve that process as well. So, yeah, that's the way I think.
Shamiron, very quickly, from what you heard, DG and CIPC, and you've worked for many CII entities, where do you think NCIPC can come in?
I'm going to continue on Lalit's path, and thank you so much. First of all, the work NCIPC has done over the years, bringing all of this together is fantastic. So the only one thing that I see as a gap is where we are all connected at a very strategic level, right? So all organizations from bottom up are connected at the CISO and the audit organization level, and guidelines are coming from top down. Maybe it will also help to create a scenario where the tactical layer of each of your teams, right, are able to interact periodically and talk about what they're saying. Because right now what's happening is usually guidelines follow tactics, right? So tactics come out first and then you write a guideline so that everybody can follow the best practice. Right now, but what we are doing right now is we have best practices first and then it percolates down to tactical. So it might be great if we can organize like monthly closed door meetings, right? This happens a lot of places in the world. Closed door meetings where you just talk about experiences, people come, share, and new evolutions come out of that particular scenario. So this might be very, very helpful apart from threat intelligence, which is automated, but this might be a information sharing. And now that the group of critical CII companies are larger, imagine the base you have that you can exploit with great talent at the tactical level that they could interact and, help us grow faster maybe.
Thanks. I just had something for the DG, but very quickly.
Just a quick point I wanted to, also make is, my name is Akhilesh. I work as at NCIPC as well. But why we are bringing the session to Nullcon, which is predominantly how do I say this? Maybe a hacker community, if I can simplify it that much, is also because of this recognition of the fact that the power or the talent that lies within this community, and how we recognize that it is important for 20-something-year-olds to actually start getting involved in, number one, CII security, because that is definitely the future and that's where the money is going to be in terms of blue teams in time to come. And second, also a recognition of the fact that the space is now opening up, and sort of a very strong signal that government is out there to collaborate, whether it's through internships, whether it's through, startup collaborations. And why should you do that? Is because we can sort of offer you the kind of problem statements that you are not going to get in a single company sitting at a bench, right? Yes, you will make only 1/3 or 1/4 of the money that you would if you were out there in a corporate, but we can jumpstart, your career right out of college. So touch base.
So, having heard this, I'll come back to the DG. One challenge is, you've heard the community, there is a certain question of that, who is good enough? Do they have the right certification, etc.? That's one challenge. The other is that, how can the community help you? So, if you have some ideas or some things about it.
Before I tell about that, I'll just react to what he said. In fact, we are really thinking, and in fact now we are saying that our policies should follow from the tactics which we see. So that is why we have started having that discussions. It's good that you raised it here. We'll definitely take it forward. Your point is quite well taken. We have a now a thought of interacting with the community in a big way, and we were really thinking of having more relevant policies built that way. And now coming back to what he's saying, we sincerely believe that we need the help of this community to secure the critical information infrastructure, because what you can see and what you can tell to the critical information infrastructure entities, nobody else can do it. None amount of compliance or audit certification or those things can help. So that is where we thought that we should contact the community, engage with them more productively and in a more collaborative fashion, as has been told. And we look for, in terms of guidance and all, we are going to make it more mandatory for teams to have more red teaming, more of those penetration testing activities, more of those bug bounty programs and things like that. So there will be a lot of things which will be coming for you from the critical sector entities. We at NCIPC also, we are also thinking, in fact we are in the final stages of launching our crowdsourcing of the ethical hackers program for protection of the critical information infrastructure. We would be reaching out to all the ethical hackers as well as the professional VAPT specialists to register them with us and tell us the time during which they are free, where they want to contribute to the CII security. We will map the kind of talent which they have and the time frame which they have, and we are also getting in touch with the CII entities, and a lot of CII entities have offered their infrastructure to be tested by the best researchers available with us, and where we are certified, where we are sure that they'll be basically testing it in the most appropriate fashion. So we'll like to connect the two, and in the process we'll be keeping a lot of rewards and a lot of recognition for the people who actually come out with those real critical vulnerabilities, so to say. So that is a program which we'll be launching very frequently. We would like the people from the community to contribute to that. That will be a big way, and we would like that to be gradually institutionalized. So that is where we see a direct role of the community, apart from the other things which we said we'll be trying to tell the CIIs. Of course, not a lot of them are doing it, but we'll try to make more and more CIIs do the same thing, so that more and more work is actually generated and the community actually contributes to the CIIs within the country, apart from what they are doing for the countries abroad. And we would really like to promote the Indian companies and the Indian professionals working in this field.
One thing that Madhavi ma'am also mentioned, that from past SaaS having to move into emerging tech, etc. How do you think, and with generative AI now the threat landscape is again changing in very different ways. So can collaborative effort be made between experts, etc.? And what is the structure you would like that to be? I'm asking for you that what is the structure, because you are like the nodal point.
What we are here doing is that we will be having a list of all those qualified hackers or the qualified researchers who want to spare a particular amount of time for finding out the vulnerabilities in the CIIs, and we'll be finding out which CII is willing to offer its infrastructure at which point of time, keeping their operational requirements in mind. And we'll do a match up and put these teams in a controlled environment to find out those vulnerabilities, and the teams doing good work will be rewarded handsomely, and they'll be given other recognition, so that we actually come out with the real vulnerabilities which are there in the CII, and that is something which we can then get it rectified. So what we will be bringing to the table is a lot of resources which individual CII entities may not be get, and we'll be doing the kind of assessment of them as to whether they are fit enough to be used for that or not. So that is something where the CII entities may not be in a position to do it alone, but at the same time, it's for them to offer their infrastructure to get it evaluated. I'm sure a lot of people have the confidence that their infrastructure can be tested in that way. We have told them. So that is where I think we like this community which likes to be challenged. We like their involvement there and actually contribute in really finding things, as Shashadri was putting it. Can you breach it? So that kind of a testing is what we want to facilitate to people who are willing, by the most quality people who can actually sit on the other side of the bench or who have the capability to match their talent.
So I was tempted to ask, when you said you can reward handsomely, how handsome is your handsome? That would be of great interest.
So we have really made it proportional to the kind of vulnerability they are able to find.
Right.
So it's just depend upon what they found. It's not that we fix a particular amount only, and that would be something which would definitely make them. Of course, we are looking for ethical hackers, so we may not be able to match what probably a Google or a Microsoft would give you, but the kind of challenge which we will give you, the kind of experience which you will give, the kind of access which you will give, that is something which no other entities can give you. So that is also something which you people have to look, and we are appealing to people who love this challenge, of course, and the reward would definitely be good enough for them to spare their time.
Right.
And it will be a reward come recognition as well.
Very quickly.
And we do look for suggestions, and we from the community and from the CII entities, of course, to how to make it better as we go along.
Good.
We can't tell it only on, say, NCIPC also, right? So while NCIPC has offered this from a stepping forward, it's also independently the liability of individual corporates ourselves. Whether we are, say, today incidentally we are CII. If not CII, are we calling ourselves that not accountable for securing ourselves? The answer is no. So my personal lookout from this audience is reward to the effort that is being put through is very, very critical. And some occasion, the way that we notice, at least I have been seeing this communication with researchers being open enough by multiple corporates that I have personally worked and my peers have worked as well. Many occasion it becomes like, I'm not rewarded, what do I do next?
Right.
That becomes the motive than doing a contributive effort. So there are corporates, like in my case, we have gotten a proper responsible disclosure program where a researcher identifies something, the means mechanism to reach out to us, established methods to reward disclosures to us. Call it bug bounty, may not want to call it out as a steered bug bounty program, but as and when identified, revealed through. So you don't have to wait essentially for NCIPC to, while NCIPC to comprehensively protect the CII can bring out this very effectively, but responsibly disclosing this is far more critical, is the need of the hour in a manner that I would want to put to this community over here. Reward will come the way in whichever form factor that it has.
Bhanu, can I put you in a tight spot? Like, you've been in the military, you're from the signals. Now you're looking at how threat intelligence works, etc. What's your experience on critical information infrastructure? Bhanu's in the army, so he's loud enough for everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Saikat, for that question. I think very interesting discussion today evening in terms of I think very important to secure our critical information infrastructure entities. Also equally important to ensure that our critical sectors embrace technology as well, because I think that is how they will digitally transform, drive innovation and efficiencies, and actually help the nation grow and achieve what we aspire to be. From our perspective, and I'm talking from multiple perspectives here. I've been in the defense forces. I'm now out. I'm in the corporate world. But what I see and what I feel is that, as you also mentioned, that it's the responsibility of all organizations, to collectively be responsible and step up their security posture, their security, evaluation, so that it's not a one-person job. It's not NCIPC's job to ensure that all critical sectors and critical entities are secured, but it's equally important that the entire ecosystem comes together and collaboratively works to that. And I think to that effect, I think I really take the point which DG also made, which was also in terms of capacity building, in terms of ensuring that you have the right kind of security professionals who are qualified and experienced enough to ensure that, the required security requirements are taken care of. There is also a requirement to ensure that, our policies are risk-based, so that they also ensure that it is easy to embrace emerging technology, and at the same time also put in the necessary guardrails which are extremely important to secure our organizations. And similarly, the role of auditors, I think it cannot be underscored. Auditors are, I would say, an additional eye external to the organization, which can actually help organizations further see if they are, in any ways deviating from their, end goal of ensuring the utmost security. Yes, audits are I would say something which is a case in point, or it's your security posture at a particular point in time. I think that my colleague here, Lalit, also brought out that needs to evolve, and that needs to become more continuous, and I would say more comprehensive, so that it's not that you just prepare for a particular day when you are going to be audited, that everything is in right and your SOPs are in place and your people are appointed for the necessary positions. I think it's a continuous job and it's a collaborative effort. So I think those are some of my thoughts.
I just like to close this by saying that the DG mentioned Section 70A of the IT Act. I think it's very interesting that you read through the IT Act and you look at what 70A is supposed to do and what is the role of NCIIPC as the nodal agency for critical information infrastructure. Their website, nciipc.gov.in, you will get to see who are the sectors. So what we have also experienced many times is people who are in the critical information infrastructure don't know that they're part of it. So take a look at that, look at nciipc.gov.in and have a look at that. His team is here, so you can, after this, interact with them. Also figure out which numbers, emails, etc. exchange so that you can get in touch with them. And let's get the Null community working closely with NCIIPC. My two requests using the immunity card I have to the DG is that cybersecurity is not only a shared responsibility, but it's also a question of trust. And usually government and private sector don't trust each other because one is a regulator, the other is a regulated entity. So trusting each other is a major issue. So how can we collaboratively come together and not be suspicious of each other? That, look, if I tell you there's a problem, will you pull me up? Is a legitimate fear. And in your cases that we understand the constraints you are working under and you are basically trying to protect the nation. And we completely appreciate that. So these 2 points, how do we bring together if we can be more collaborative, more research oriented, where we not just look at how to solve yesterday's problem, but tomorrow's challenges, especially with everybody wants to move into cloud, everybody wants AI, etc. What are those challenges that will come? So with that, I think we can set up a good framework. And NCIIPC, as I said, is a young organization. So the potential with a young organization is much higher than already established, slightly conservative organizations. So with that, thank you everybody for... thank you everybody for being a great audience, and we'll just have some quick questions. Can you speak a little loudly? We are without a mic. I'm charging extra for running.
I was about to highlight about the mobile number disclosure. Whenever we visit any malls or any, nowadays they're collecting the mobile numbers. So, all India, presently we are depending on the UPI. So, UPI is mobile number linked, right? So, why can't we restrict the mobile number collection by these grocery shops or airlines? Example I'm giving. So that is the critical breach as well, right? So
that's a data protection issue. We'll discuss this in it. There was some question.
I would like to had a small query regarding nowadays. Most of the time, the CII entities basically gets attacked by the APTs, right? And they have a clear motivation of what they want to do with that once they get a successful in it. So once after the attack, then if successful, after the successful investigation, once we get the data out of it, what the government is doing with the data, basically. See, if like what I'm saying is, we have assuming we have attributed this X threat actor, right? You name it, anything, either, like the sir has mentioned, like Lazarus or Fensibier or whatever it is, right? Assuming some X, we have identified it. What are we, and definitely they are not going to be from inside one. They are going to be some third party countries, considering our geopolitical situation. So my question is, what the government is taking steps to, in terms of law enforcement side of thing. What are we doing with that IPs and, probably we'll get a location or something like that. What are we doing with that?
I think his question was that what is the feedback mechanism from NCIPC to these kind of threats?
I understand his question. See, actually, you all are from that community. You would be knowing that going one hop backward will not solve the problem. You need to go probably many hop backwards to know who is and do further things. But whatever is possible, we are definitely on that track, and that is where we want a lot of collaboration, because we want to do things which the entities alone cannot do. So probably we'll like to go, if an entity is capable of finding out where from the attack comes and he gives us the outsider IPs, we would like to work further rather than going and doing the root cause analysis for them. So that is exactly what we are looking into doing. So of course there are a lot of challenges with the shared challenges which countries face. So we are building the right kind of international partnership to be able to take that forward. But before I end, I must thank the audience and especially my panelists who are here to give us a lot of insight into what we can do, some really good insights, and I can assure you that we would work collaboratively, and our work as a regulator doesn't come in way, because we see it more as working together to fight the common enemy. We are not here to fix faults among ourselves, because I know that is not what is going to take us forward. And as he puts it, ultimately the onus of protecting the CIIs is theirs, but we also feel bad if some of the CIIs get hit. So we would like to work together with them. So as we see it, we want to facilitate them, and we want to take on only those work which they alone cannot do. And we want to bring them together so that as a community we are able to defend ourselves. And so I think
we have just one last question. Your question is that if you have given them some indicator, some threat intelligence, and they have worked on it and come to a conclusion, how do you get that feedback? Correct. So how do you learn? So
what exactly do you want from us? We'll do exactly what you want from us.
No, but he's being serious.
Because see, for example, I can tell you that there are researchers who came to us who had found some vulnerabilities in the mobile banking apps. They went to the concerned bank, they went to RBI, nobody was listening to us. They came to us, we put our people on the job, they found that the vulnerabilities actually exist, then we took it up with the concerned. Yeah, we have, and then we have actually thanked that particular research institute for having. They actually just wanted that you please ask them to close the vulnerability. We want nothing else. But we came back to them. We actually thanked them for that work, and in return they gave us some of those tools which can find certain vulnerabilities which probably were not being found by professional people. Yeah, definitely. We focus on the critical sector entities mainly, but largely if there is something which is to be passed to the larger community, we pass it on through the certain other agencies working in the field and even to the regulators where it is required.
So with that, can we close because I just wanted to gently remind everybody you're in Goa. The one key part of Nullcon is that you also get to party, and it's 5:10. So I think any further discussions can be offline. So with that, thank you everybody.
Yeah, please, we are available till tomorrow. So
Till tomorrow.
and my team is also available.
And
so we'd like to connect one
Thank
to
you
one.
to this fantastic panel. Thank you, Lalit. Thank you, Bhanu.
No, I must
thank
thank
you,
my
Shamira.
co-panelists for being here at such a short notice, and all the audience for having come here and listened to us patiently. And we look forward to really working together.
Somebody can thank the moderator also, but.